Welcome to another episode of Food, Wine, and Whiskey in Your Own Backyard. This is episode 2, and tonight's going to be kind of 3 segments. We're going to kind of talk a little bit about food, a little bit about wine, and a little bit about whiskey, not in that order. We're going to kind of go food first, and then we're going to go into some whiskey, and then we're going to finish up with a little bit of wine that we really, really like, and we're going to kind of tell you all what we like about it. And if you're wondering why I keep saying we, I have a guest here this evening, a good friend of mine, somebody I enjoy cooking with, enjoy drinking with, both whiskey and wine. And we're going to pick his brain a little bit and kind of, he's a Katy native, well, maybe not a Katy native, Chris Chambers, everybody.
Close enough. A-Leaf,
but lived in Katy for how many years now?
31 years now.
In Katy?
21 years in Katy.
21 years in Katy. So you've absolutely seen the change.
Absolutely.
That's happened out in Katy.
Absolutely. It's gone from small town to, we're a great little food scene now.
Yeah, for me, I'm just, I'll start by saying our kids, and we have kids that are, my son's 18, my daughter's 21, they have no idea what they've missed out on 10 years ago, 15 years ago, because, they were so little, they didn't know what they didn't have. And to grow up now, it's a great time to be a young person in Katy because everything that you might want, all the different flavors you might be looking for, it's in our own backyard. It's right here.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So tell me, Chris, well, let's give them a little background. You and I have been friends for almost 10 years now, and we became friends like a lot of people do when you have children. They play sports, and you kind of get out every Saturday and you see each other. You kind of become friends, and that's how we did it. And then we kind of found out that we both like to cook and we both like to eat.
Absolutely. I spent 20 years in the restaurant business and moved to Katy and was continuing to do that, and then at a big giant corporation, and then made the change and went to the grocery business. So now that's what I do now. I've been doing that for 12 years. And as you said, our kids have grown up together. He was actually my son's coach from 3rd grade on. So he's been a very influential part of not just my son's life, but our life as well.
Well, and we appreciate you guys as good friends as well. So so the food scene out here, you and I have, I liked to cook before I met you, but I was kind of that backyard chef. I like to cook a little bit indoors, but I was more about, barbecuing, firing up the grill with hamburgers, hot dogs, that kind of cooking. But 10, 12 years ago is when I started to get into more, and you may have influenced that quite a bit, or at least a little, of cooking the finer foods, if you will. Cooking some nice meals, whether it be fillets or nice pastas or, ossobuco or something that we wanted to kind of take on and try to create.
It's fun to experiment. And if I can do it at home and quite honestly save a buck versus going out to do it, that's what I'm going to do. Because if I can cook it just as good, why not?
Yeah, I agree with you there. And the other point I would make to that is if you can do it at home, after you've went to a restaurant and you've eaten something that you really enjoy, I find it fun to come home and go, I can try to recreate that. Let's try to make that.
Oh, yeah. It's fun to copy.
Absolutely. That's the biggest compliment somebody can have, right?
Exactly. When you're trying to recreate their food, and, remember, a recipe is merely a guideline. You start with that, and then you just go from there and play until it's what you want.
Yeah, absolutely. So talking about food out in Katy, obviously, we like to cook, so we also like to go out and eat. For me, I would say the last 3 or 4 years, it's just really blown up. Maybe a little bit longer than that. Maybe I just didn't notice it prior to that. But the last 3 or 4 years, I've really seen all of these restaurants. These, I guess they're chefs or they're front office people, front of the house people who worked at other establishments that decided that, Katy was the area they wanted to come to and try to open up their own place. And so many of them have been successful, and it's really cool to have them here, right in our backyard. But tell me what your thoughts are. When did you start seeing this kind of blow up like it has?
Probably within the last 5 years, and I think it's more the appreciation for trying something different, getting away from the larger chain restaurants and actually having an appreciation for the one-man shop, so to speak. Because there's any kind of flavor you can imagine is in Katy now, whether it be an Italian, whether it be a great old American menu, to lots of different Asian places, sushi places. These are all, family owned, and I love that.
Yeah, it's one of the things that I really like is that, when you 15, 20 years ago, and my wife and I would have had a nice night out, it would have been Olive Garden. It might have been Red Lobster. It might have been Landry's up on I-10. And I'm not knocking those places. They definitely have a place, but I've absolutely evolved from that. But, 15, 20 years ago, that was a nice night out for us. But to your point, you never, you went in, you had dinner, you got served, and, they took good care of you and you left. The places that we like to go now in Katy with, these local people have opened up their own, call it one-man shop or whatever you want to call it, but it's a nice, intimate, small setting where they really serve great food. They give you a great experience. The service is outstanding. You become friends with those people. You get to know the owners. You get to know the servers. You get to know the chefs. And that's something, when you can build those relationships with these places, that's something I really enjoy and I really am thankful for.
It's all about the experience, and that could be with where you were eating when something happened, or even a bottle of wine. You remember where you were when you had that great bottle of wine or that great glass of bourbon. It doesn't matter. It's all about the experience that's created when you have that, and that's what you can reflect on, and you will remember that for years to come.
Yeah, totally agree. Totally agree. So if we won't jump into all of them because there's so many different restaurants that we enjoy out here now. But if you had to give top 3 restaurants that you enjoy going to that, maybe a lot of people have heard of or maybe they haven't, but just top 3 restaurants that you enjoy going to that isn't a chain type restaurant. It's a local place.
Right now, currently, I would say Da Vinci for Italian, Anthony's for pretty much anything you want.
American food.
From chicken fried steak to phenomenal shrimp and grits to, they've got it all. And probably the other one would be, I would say Azul for sushi. That's been one of our favorites recently. So, and then we found a new one that we're going to take Rob to this weekend called Duck and Bao, which is some phenomenal Chinese food. So we're going to let him taste that and see what he thinks.
Yeah, I'm excited to go up there Sunday and try that out. I can't wait to. Based on what you've told me and based on reviews I've seen online, it looks like a fantastic place. So Da Vinci's one place. You brought that up first. That's one of my favorites, and it's a lot of you may know Da Vinci already. Those of you who've just heard people talk about it but really don't know what it is, other than being an Italian restaurant. It's the type of place that to me, Chris, and you tell me if I'm wrong, if you want to take your wife somewhere special, and let me just start by telling you this, it's a small restaurant. It may be, Chris, 12, 13 tables?
Probably 13 tables.
Yeah. So it's an intimate setting. They do a really good job of creating that ambiance of, it's date night, or it could be a couple of couples taking their wives out, but it's that nice setting that you're going to enjoy in the restaurant. It's not real loud, but it's got that European feel, meaning they don't rush you. A lot of times you go to these restaurants, and I get it. They want to turn tables. That's how they make money. People sit down, eat, get them out, get the next ones in. At this particular restaurant at Da Vinci, man, you can come in and it's got that European feel, meaning that you can sit down and eat for a while. You order your appetizer, then your meal, then your dessert. You have some wine in between.
I mean, if you're driving down Fry Road and you blink, you'll miss the restaurant. It's that small. But it's like walking into a restaurant in a back alley in Florence. It really has that feel. And when you get there, time literally slows down. You cannot go in a hurry. There's no point in it. It's incredible. I mean, the food, no matter what you get, they'll bring you a chalkboard. They have a menu, but, they're going to recite everything on that chalkboard. And by the time they're done, you're going to want to order 15 things on that chalkboard, inevitably.
And the chalkboards are specials. That's kind of their signature dishes, maybe, because they have them on a regular basis. But to Chris's point about they have a regular menu, I've been going there 10 years now. I have never even looked at their regular menu. I know that they have eggplant parmesan because you order that once in a while, and I might order that as a half order sometimes, but I've never actually looked at their menu because that board is fantastic. And when you have 20 items that you can pick from as mains on that board that are just fantastic, every time you go, you either want to try what you had last time because there may have been a certain amount of time in between your visits, or you go and you have a great dish and you remember something that you saw that you wanted to try, and you can't wait to go back and try that next dish. And It's just fantastic. And you got Alex and you got Fernando, and those guys really, they do an outstanding job of taking care of you.
And
if
there's something, and I'll tell you this, if there's something you don't see on the menu and that you like, they'll figure out a way to make it. And you can even combine things together. I mean, we've done that.
Yeah, they're fantastic. I wasn't going to say that because I don't know that they want to do that for everybody, but oops.
That's a secret.
You didn't hear that. But they really do a fantastic job, and they have some fantastic appetizers. I mean, the soupe de peche is a seafood bisque that's outstanding. They've got a baked pear salad that just blows me away. I mean, the hardest thing for me going to Da Vinci is making a freaking decision. I mean, it's just hard. That gets to your point about, again, you didn't hear this, getting half of something and half of something else and making it one plate. And they really do a good job of taking care of the customers when they want to do things like that.
I always revert to that. It's the hardest part is making a decision. You go in there thinking you're going to get something, then they recite everything to you, and oh my goodness, I want something else.
Yep. Now, another reason this is one of our favorite restaurants is
you can bring your own wine.
Hallelujah. One of our favorite things to do is find restaurants that you can bring your own wine to. And they do charge you a corking fee, but I mean, we're happy to pay it just so that we can drink things we like. A lot of times you see a wine list, and it may be great wines on there, but I'm not, a super wine aficionado that I know every wine that would be on a wine list. So it's for me hard to know if I'm getting a good value, if I'm getting a wine I'll like. So when I can go to a restaurant and they can charge me a corkage fee and I can bring a bottle that I know I'm going to enjoy with the great food they're going to bring to me, that's what I want to do.
You got to look for value. That's one of the reasons why, another reason why we bring our own wine is, let's be frank, some places charge a big markup for wine. Some don't. You don't know what you're going to get when you roll the dice on those wines. And this way, we know exactly what we're going to get. We don't mind paying the corkage fee and moving forward.
Yeah, we enjoy good wine with good food. Nothing beats that. So Da Vinci, outstanding. If you haven't been, I will tell you, if it's something that you go, hey, we want to try that now, heads up, you definitely want to make a reservation because, again, it's got 12, 13 tables. Popping in on a Friday or Saturday or even a Thursday, shit, even a Monday can be tough. So calling ahead and making a reservation for, 2, 4, 6, whatever's in your party, that's the way to do it to make sure you have a space to sit down and enjoy what they're going to do for you.
And when you get there, when you make a reservation and their table's not ready, don't be upset. Just order a glass of wine, order a beer, and wait because they are small, they are family, it's small.
And it will be worth the wait. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
All right, the next one we talked about, you said Anthony's. And Anthony Decker, a lot of people in the foodie, I'll call it the foodie world of Katy, know Anthony, know that he had a restaurant down kind of in Fulshear. Now he's got his new place out in Simonton, Anthony's. And what do you like? I mean, I have a lot of things I like about this restaurant. What do you like about it?
I'm fortunate enough that I knew Anthony in a former life, so that helps a lot. But this restaurant is in the middle of nowhere in Simonton, Texas, and it is packed every single night, and there's a reason for that. They've got a phenomenal bar selection, wines, bourbons, cocktails, you name it, they've got it. They've got live music. The menu is incredible, and my kids love it. I mean, anything from the chicken fried steak to the rolls and the homemade brown gravy gets my kids there, and to find a place that my kids like is always a challenge other than Chick-fil-A and Whataburger.
And I agree with you wholeheartedly that it's a great place because you get great food. The menu, it just has a variety of things that you can order, like Chris said earlier, from seafood to steaks to just good old, chicken fried chicken or chicken fried steak. I mean, it's just across the board. But when you start talking about family, I mean, they take care of kids really, really well. They have a menu that is catered towards those kids. And it's a place where you can bring out the football. I mean, Chris said it's in the middle of nowhere. It's out in Simonton. He's got big grass fields right in the restaurant. He's got a play area. So it is family friendly. It's kid friendly. But, man, when you get out there and you sit on, and my recommendation would be sit on the patio. I mean, I know, sometimes it's hot in Houston or Katy. But, he's got those big-ass fans. He does a good job of creating a comfortable environment on that patio. If you go on a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Chris, typically live music?
Pretty much live music now most nights.
Most nights.
Out on the patio.
Yeah, so to be able to sit out there and enjoy a nice night after the sun's down or going down and be able to listen to some music and eat great food, to me, it's a great place to go.
And you're not overlooking a freeway or buildings. You're overlooking pastures.
Yeah. You're not sitting outside a restaurant looking to your left or right and seeing more people sitting outside a different restaurant. You're kind of in this secluded area, which really makes it nice. But go ahead.
Don't let the chicken fried steak fool you. It's good, but they can do it upright. I mean, they've got shrimp and grits that are phenomenal. That was actually featured on the Travel Channel. They've got
my favorite, cobia over a coconut rice with some shrimp on top.
And the mango salsa.
Oh, that mango salsa just blows you away. Outstanding.
And then if you go on the right night, there may be a special that's a baked cod with a Parmesan cream sauce on top with Brussels sprouts that are done with bacon and sriracha. You may find the tomahawk. They have tomahawks there on them, every other now and then basis.
How about the lobster mac and cheese?
That's on the menu. That was so good that it's on the menu now.
Regular item, and it's freaking awesome. So all of those things are really good. I mean, we've had several of those things, and we'll definitely have more. I will tell you that they're a full bar, so they have their liquor license, so you cannot bring wine there, but they have an outstanding wine list. 2.5 pages. He's got New World, all kinds of stuff from Napa, and he's got all kinds of stuff from, France and Italy over in the Old World. So
he's even got his own label now that was created for him.
For wine?
Of his wine. Mm-hmm.
Okay, that I did not know. Do you know who's producing that for him?
No, I do not. I know it's out of either Washington or Oregon. They've got Cabernet for sure, and Cabernet Sauvignon, and potentially a Merlot.
Oh, wow. Out of California.
I don't think it's out of California. I think it's out of Washington or
Washington. Okay, okay.
Or Oregon.
All right. Well, that'll be interesting. I haven't had that yet. I'll be curious to go out there again and try that. That's awesome. But like Chris said, full bar, but it's another one that, and it's just nice to get out of, and I know, Katy's not in Houston, but still to get out of the hustle and bustle of our suburb and get out to Simonton, definitely worth it when you have his food and you get to, just sit back and enjoy. And we're getting into that time of year where it's just beautiful weather. This is the time to start loading up out at Anthony's and enjoy and take advantage of what he has to offer.
Absolutely.
All right. Last one you brought up, one of my favorites. We love Lucy over at Azul, and they do a fantastic job. And Eduardo, the chef over there, do some really cool things. And Azul is on Mason, just off Mason and I-10. If you know where the Jason's Deli is, it's right there in that shopping center next to the Harbor Freight right there. Kind of tucked away for a long time, I think, until word of mouth kind of really got out about how good they are. It was not very well known. I think a lot of people in the foodie world in Katy now know who they are, but for those of you who don't, if you live over on 1463 or you live over off of in the Cinco Ranch areas over there, it's worth the drive over to come have some of their food. It's seafood and tapas, so it's not just sushi. But Chris, what are some of your favorite things on the menu?
Actually, it was Anthony Decker who introduced us to.
That's right.
To
Told
Azul.
us to go check it out.
Told us to go check it out. We're missing out if we haven't been, so we went and we got hooked. And my staples are for sure the tuna tartare. The tuna tartare is awesome. They've got a variety of rolls that are amazing. The Brazilian roll, several different rolls. The soft shell crab tacos are really good. They do a short rib also. They've got the ceviche is really good.
There's a roll called the Robin Chris roll that I heard is pretty good.
I wonder who came up with that.
Interesting. But if you go, I would definitely recommend that. I love, I'm a big fan of jalapenos, and so they've got this jalapeno appetizer that's deep fried with it's got
a very surprised ingredient in there, peanut butter.
Yeah, peanut butter.
And it works.
And you go, peanut butter and jalapeno, that sounds kind of crazy, nuts, if you will.
It's a jalapeno popper on steroid.
It is. And these aren't like little bitty ones, take one bite and you're done. This is 4 big pieces. I don't know where they get these jalapenos from, but they're on steroids because they're like, 6-7 inches long, stuffed with this peanut butter and crab meat and lightly fried in a tempura batter that is just really out of this world. And then they have that, what's that appetizer? The chipotle, what is it? It's not scallops.
Oh, the calamari.
The calamari.
The calamari with the honey chipotle calamari.
Man, that is some good stuff.
And it's nothing like any calamari you would think of. It's not deep fried with marinara. No. This is grilled in a sauce, served with a bread that they don't give you enough bread to sop up all that sauce.
So we're talking, you're going, okay, sounds like a sushi place to me. what we've described so far probably does. But they have some of the best chicken fried rice I've ever had. They have that Hawaiian-style fried rice that is out of this world. They have fish tacos and shrimp tacos that just blow me away.
And short rib tacos. Or
And
you can
short
get
rib
one of
tacos.
each.
Yeah. So they have a variety of other things, and they're similar, to what we talked about with Da Vinci. And that's what I like about these kind of places is if you tell them, I want to try something different, here's the flavors I want, here's what I want in it, they'll create something right there on the spot for you. And that's really, really cool.
That's how the Rob and Chris roll came up with, is they asked us what we liked, and we told them, and they came up with a roll.
And now it's available all the time.
It's not on the menu, but you can definitely order it.
You can ask for it, absolutely. So Azul is also one of our favorites, and Lucy is the owner of the restaurant.
Yes.
She works the front of the house. Eduardo's the chef there. She's a fantastic person. She's a mother of 2 girls, right?
2 girls.
And just a darling of a person. We really love supporting Lucy and would love that, if you haven't been to Azul, give it a shot. They do a really good job of coming up with specials, if not every week, every other week or so, they have something new on the menu. And then when we get into the wintertime, when it's cold, they come up with some really cool seasonal stuff, some different bisques, some different chowders, some different fishes they get flown in and do some different stuff. So it's a really cool place to go. And another reason we love Azul,
you can bring your own wine.
another one of those places. And again, anytime you can bring your own wine, drink what you like when you're enjoying a good meal, for me, it just makes me happy. It just does.
Don't get me wrong. There's nothing like a good glass of sake to go with your sushi, though.
That's true, too. And she carries some really good sake up there.
She does. She got me hooked on sake.
So those are 3 restaurants that we really like that have popped up. Da Vinci and them have been here a little bit longer. Azul, I think, maybe not even 2 years yet. Anthony's, a couple years maybe?
Anthony's has been there. I think he just had his 2-year anniversary.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, 2 or 3.
So new to the area, somewhat still. That's still fairly new. Da Vinci's been here for a little while, but if you haven't been to any of these places, we would highly recommend that you go out and check them out. You're going to enjoy it. You're not going to be disappointed. Great food, great atmosphere, great experience. I mean, just doesn't get any better than that.
I think we need to mention one more, since if Rob will indulge me, and let's do a 4th.
Yeah.
I got to give a shout out to Papa Gyros.
Okay, let's do it now.
It's in a gas station, and you would not believe the food coming out of this place. They've got the best Italian beef sandwiches I've had outside of Chicago, the best gyros I've ever had in my life. It is an amazing little hole in the wall with a drive-through that you can imagine. The Greek food's phenomenal, from that to the Italian beef to they've got Detroit hot dogs with the Coney-style chili.
Yeah, it's fantastic. My kids love it as well, and it's just that good comfort type of food. When you think about gyros and things like that, you have a certain kind of thought perception in your mind of what it's going to be, and you get that with them. But when you drive by it, if you don't know what it is, like Chris said, it's at a Shell station on the corner of Kingsland and 99. And so I say that so that you know where to look for it. If you drive by, you're going to be like, who would go to a place in a gas station like that? Let me tell you, some of the best places you can go to are in a gas station or hidden away in a strip center or something like that. And this is one of them. He does a fantastic job, and the service is outstanding. He's got all the other Greek stuff too, and I'm not going to pronounce this right, but he's got the
moussaka, the gyros, the baklava, the
That's the
spanakopita.
How do you say it?
Spanakopita.
Yeah, something like that. I think you guys know what we're talking about.
With the spinach.
I love eating it. Just don't know how to say it. But yeah, he's got all that stuff there, and he's doing a fantastic job. And we want to, highlight him even a little more. He's getting some of his own brick and mortar. He's building a restaurant up by Morton and 99, and I don't know exactly where it is yet.
It's going to be on Mason and Psalms, from what I understand.
Mason and Psalms. Okay,
Yes.
Okay. So I was off. It's going to be over off Mason. So once that gets built, I don't know, how big a space. I don't know the details yet, but that's going to definitely be a place to go check out. I would assume with a bigger place, expect that menu to get a little bit better. I would bet he's going to add some things that are going to just blow us away.
Absolutely. I've not been fortunate enough to meet Chris yet. I know you have, Rob.
Yes, Chris is fantastic.
But my son, who works in the oil field, he comes down, and when he's here, his go-to lunch. Even if it's by himself, he's got to drive through Papiero's. That's one of his favorites.
Now, I don't think we would be doing Chris justice if we mentioned Papiero's and did not mention
Sapore.
Yeah, Sapore is another fantastic Italian restaurant. Go ahead, Chris. Talk about them a little bit.
It's similar to Da Vinci, that style. It's a very small restaurant, very intimate. It's going to be on 1093. Him and his father actually bought this from another previous owner, and turning out fantastic Italian cuisine.
Yeah, they do a great job. And it's the same thing that, it's kind of in our criteria, what we look for in a restaurant, meaning it's family owned where we can come in and they're going to they're going to treat every customer like, you're special. They really do. They take care of each and every customer. It's intimate. It's small. The food is fantastic. Just all those things that you want in a restaurant to make sure that you get a great night out with your wife or with your family. They provide that. They really do an outstanding job.
Well, I appreciate you having me on tonight.
This is only segment one, so we're going to finish
fun.
up here talking about those are the 3 restaurants we're going to highlight tonight. Just getting some information out to Katy. We're going to take a quick little break, and then we're going to be back, and we're going to sip on a little bourbon and see what we think about a couple bottles of bourbon. So we'll be right back. Welcome back to Food, Wine, and Whiskey in your own backyard. Chris and I are still here with you, and we're getting ready to switch over. We're going to try a little bourbon. Chris, this is the Michter's Small Batch Bourbon. I've never had it.
I have not either. I've had their rye, but I've never had the small batch bourbon.
And I love their rye. I love their rye. I love their sour mash. That's the only 2 I've had from Michter's. And let me start by saying, Chris, I'll speak for both of us. We're kind of dummies, well, maybe just flat out idiots when it comes to bourbon, but sure as hell like to drink it.
Absolutely. I love to drink bourbon. I'm becoming, over the last several months, I've gotten to the point where I don't need to mix anymore, and I've had a great appreciation for better bourbons. So I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah. Bourbons to me remind me, I've been into wine longer than I've been into bourbon, but I see a lot of similarities between bourbon and wine, with the different flavor profiles, the different producers, the different types of bourbon, whether it's small batch or bottled in bond or, I know rye's not a bourbon, but a rye style whiskey. Those, comparing it to and how long it's aged.
How long it's aged in the barrel. Absolutely.
Is a big part of it. And that kind of goes a lot like wines. And so I got into whiskeys. You got me kind of into whiskeys. I started off on Crown Royal and had to mix it. I mean, Coca-Cola and Crown was what I started with and had to drink, and that was probably, 5 years ago?
That seems like a long time ago.
Yeah, so that's where I started with whiskey, but I've now gotten to where, like Chris, I love to drink bourbon, and now I drink it neat, just pour a little in a glass and sip on it a little bit. Typically what I do is when I'm cooking, because I love to cook, I'll drink bourbons as I'm prepping and cooking food. And then when we get ready to sit down and have our meal, I love to switch to wine and have some glasses of wine to finish off the evening. So
it's a Kentucky wine. You get the best of both worlds.
Yeah, can't beat that. So we're going to tell you right up front that we are not whiskey experts by any means. We're not trying to come across and tell you that trust exactly what we're saying. We're going to tell you just what we think about this. And there's no wrong answer when it comes to wine or whiskey. You think what you think. You taste what you taste. You feel what you feel. I mean, if you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. Nobody can tell you any different. And by all means, drink what you like. If you like something, drink it. If you don't, don't. If you like to put a cube of ice in your bourbon, do it. You like Coke in your bourbon? Do it. you paid for it. Drink it the way you want. So we'll start by saying that. But
Don't knock the cube of ice, Rob.
not at all. Not going to knock it. You want to put it in there, put it in there. I'm just not. There are some, though, that I'm the more I'm researching and finding about bourbons, that if you just put a drop or two of water into your bourbon, it's supposed to help it just open up and breathe a little bit more. And you're supposed to enhance some of those, on the nose that you get, and then also on the palate, So I'm curious. I haven't tried that yet, but that's something I do want to do. But anyway, we've cracked open a bottle. This is my first one I've bought of this Michter's small batch bourbon. I've never had it. It's just under 92 proof. Doesn't say, when I looked it up, how long it's aged, because it doesn't say on the bottle, so I wanted to look it up. And, a lot of times they'll tell you if it's aged, 4 years, 10 years, 8 years, whatever it might be. This particular bottle does not say it. But because I've had, like Chris said, their rye and their sour mash, I really like it. And so this was a bottle that I'd been looking forward to picking up and trying. I figured, heck, why not tonight? Pop it and see what me and Chris think about it. So here we go. So we've poured us each a little. We've been letting it open up a little bit, and we're going to put it on the nose and see what I think. And I'll tell you, on the nose, it's
it opens your nostrils up.
It does. At 92 proof, it seems hotter than that on the nose. I would have guessed, if you told me to guess just without knowing and taking a little sniff on the nose, I would have thought it was over 100.
It's definitely got a strong nose, but it's got a very subtle finish for me.
So I get definitely the oak and a little bit of sweet. But I'll be honest, on the nose, out of the mixtures I've had, it's not my favorite. It would probably be third out of the three that I've had. But sometimes on the nose doesn't matter if it drinks real well. That's what matters.
But it definitely leaves a little peppery on the back of your throat as it goes down, kind of like an itch. But smooth, very smooth.
I'll tell you, just before we started, we kind of took a sip of this, and I took a sip, and on the mid palate, I thought it was a little hotter, and it's opened up in the last 5 minutes, 6 minutes. I think much like a wine again, bourbons, you let them open up a little bit, just kind of continue to let them swirl in that glass and let them breathe a little bit. This is drastically different in just 5-6 minutes than it was when I first tried it. So initially I told Chris before we started recording, I'm not sure if I like this one, but here we go. Now that we've started 5-6 minutes later, I'm going, okay, now it's not too bad. So
if we would have started 5 minutes ago, all you would have heard was him coughing.
Yeah, that's right. It kind of got me in the throat, like Chris said, that peppery. And this last drink I took didn't happen. So let's see here. But, still a good bourbon. It's typically around $40-$45. This is one you can typically find on the shelf. I know places in Katy like Total Wine have it. Dandy Liquor always has this. I always see it on their shelf when I'm there. Specs always has it. So, it should be something easily accessible if you're going to go out and look for this one. But $40-$45. If you're a bourbon drinker who's been kind of in that $20 to $30 range and you're looking to kind of go another notch up and try something different, Michter's is definitely one I would recommend. I was kind of hesitant on this one at first, but now that it's opened up and I've had another on the nose and drink another little bit of it, it's kind of growing on me. Chris?
It is. It's gotten better as it opens up. This is a nice graduation from Buffalo Trace or Maker's Mark or some of the other traditional Kentucky bourbons.
Yeah, the nose is kind of mellowed out a little bit as far as having that real, where I said I thought it might have been a higher proof because it kind of burned me a little bit. It's subtle now. It's backed off of that a little bit, and so I kind of.
So what have we learned, Rob?
Say again?
What have we learned? We open it up and we let it sit for a minute.
Yeah, don't just stick your nose in there. Give it a few seconds,
Patience is not always won with bourbon.
But, I do the same thing with wine, and I like to so I can kind of follow how it changes, kind of what I get on it when I first open it up, take a drink, and then 15, 20 minutes later, and then, another 15, 20 minutes after that. And bourbon is the same way. I like to get it on the nose right when I pour it, and then wait 10 minutes, kind of slowly sip it and see how it changes, how it evolves.
Enjoying wine and watching my palate change over the years has required a great deal of patience, most of which my kids have not taught me over the years.
Yeah, because of kids. Is that why we got into wine and bourbon?
I think that's why wine and bourbon was invented.
For parents. So, no, I would definitely, my opinion, I know you didn't hear it initially, but my opinion has definitely changed. I do like this one now. It's just, you definitely, again, me telling you, do whatever you like, you might like it right out of the bottle. But I think, pouring it, letting it open up for 5-6 minutes, it definitely changes, and it's nicer on the nose, in my opinion, and it's definitely nicer on the palate, and the finish is it's not big.
No, it's subtle now.
And it doesn't
Very
last
subtle.
very long. What you do get kind of goes away pretty quick.
It doesn't hang around.
Yeah, well, that's okay. Now I'm enjoying that. I've changed my mind, everybody. I like it. So that's interesting. I know that happens sometimes, but I'll be honest, it hasn't happened to me a lot. Typically, when I smell a bourbon for the first time or sip it for the first time, I usually either like it or I don't like it, and that opinion doesn't change, but it definitely has on this one. Didn't like it initially, and yeah, I like it now. All right.
I would definitely drink this again.
So that's our first time having the Michter's bourbon. This is the small batch. Again, 92 proof, just under 91.4. Things we like about it is it's once it opens up, it's nice on the nose. You get a little bit of, you get that oak from the barrel. You get a little sweetness with the honey and vanilla, and I like that. The on the palate, you get a lot of those same flavors. I do, and then the finish, it's there. It's not real strong, and I wish it lasted a little bit longer. But other than that, I think it's a real nice bourbon, Chris.
Yeah, the pepper wears off on the finish from when you open it to when you let it sit for a while.
All right. Well, we're gonna go now, and we're gonna, as crazy as this might sound, we're gonna go from drinking a little bit of bourbon, and we're gonna go try a little bit of wine and tell you what we think about that. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Food, Wine, and Whiskey in Your Own Backyard. We are now moving on to trying some wine, and what we've done is we've pulled out the same wine but two different vintages. We've got a 2009 and a 2015. This is a producer from Napa Valley, but before we get into the wine, Chris, let's talk about the producer. Say a few words. You know him better than I do, so go ahead.
The winery is Reynolds Family Winery. It's owned by Steve Reynolds, and we've been fortunate enough to have been going to his winery for about 10 years now. And we've been to several wine dinners that he's put on in Houston, and we've been a wine club member. He's just got some phenomenal wines that we really enjoy. So we're going to step right into these two wines and see what we think.
And I'll say this, that, we picked this particular, Chris and I were talking about, let's do a wine tonight. What do we want to do? And we definitely wanted to do something that we're familiar with and that we know. And getting back to like we talked about in the last segment, we are by no means, sommeliers at all, but we do like wine. And, I've been to Napa only one time. Chris has been probably a dozen times with his wife and other friends of theirs. But what we've done and what we've learned from Chris and Terry is that, when you can find wines in your market here in Katy or in Houston that you can buy off the shelf here, don't join those wine clubs. So what they've kind of opened us up to is finding boutique wineries in Napa Valley, if you're a fan of Napa, finding those boutique wineries and joining those so that you can get the wine that they produce that typically doesn't make it to the market that you live in, and you can't readily get that off the shelf. Now, I will tell you that this particular producer, you can, and we're doing this wine because you can get this Persistence is what it is. I've just let the cat out of the bag. It's Reynolds Family Persistence. You can get this at the grocery store, at the wine store, things like that. We want to do it for that reason. You guys can go out and find this bottle. But he produces a lot of other things that you can't get here. So we're hoping that if you go try this wine, You'll like it, and it might entice you to say, you know what, maybe we want to join their wine club if you already do that a little bit and try their wine a little bit.
To give you a little background on, like Rob said, I've been numerous times to Napa, and it all started, we've been going for about 17 years now. That's how long I've been drinking wine. And ironically, it all started with forgetting my wife's birthday, which I don't recommend any of you doing. But I did, and I made up for it with a surprise trip to Napa, and we've been going, and it's been a blast to see how your palate changes from really not knowing much about wine over the years to every year you go, things change. Your palate completely changes to things that you drank the year before. You know, sometimes you can't drink anymore. They just don't taste as good as they used to. So that's a little history about how I got into wine. And then Rob's a little bit newer to wine. So how did you get into it?
You and your family. My wife for a long time wanted me to drink wine. And I will say that my wife drank wine, and I'll say it now, she didn't drink good wine. And meeting Chris and Terry got me exposed to good wine. And I would always have my wife tell me, drink a glass of wine with me, drink your glass. And I'd try hers, whatever she was drinking, Yellowtail or whatever it was, and go, no thanks, I'll stick to my beer. But meeting Chris and Terry after a couple of years, we would go over to their house for dinner, and Terry and Chris would always have a nice bottle of wine open. And I can remember Chris telling me, you know what, take a drink, see what you think. And I'd always, push back, no, I'm not interested in wine. It's just not my thing. And he would be persistent, and no pun there, and finally got me to take a drink of a wine. And I'm trying to remember, Chris, I don't remember what that first one was, but nonetheless, it was really, really good. And I went, okay, I kind of like wine. So my journey was I started drinking wine at that moment where I got into it a little bit, where I said, I'll buy a few bottles. And we started off buying a little refrigerator that held like 16 bottles of wine. And I can remember that when my wife and I would go shopping, Chris and Terry would always open up and we'd go over, God bless them, a $40 or $50 or $60 bottle of wine and let us have some. Boy, they were nice. And then when I would go to the store with my wife, she'd say, let's buy some wine. She'd go, remember this one that Chris opened? And I'd look at it and go, yeah, for $50, we're not buying that. Down here is where we want to be, in that $20, $25 range. But as I continued to drink wine, we kind of stayed in that $20, $25 wine range, and then we would continue to grow, and Chris and Terry would continue to expose us to different wines and better wines. And so now I've gotten to a point in the last, 5 years, Chris?
Oh, yeah, you've definitely graduated.
Yeah, so now I've graduated to where I like wines. There's really good $20 wines. There's really good $100 wines. But I've now gotten to where I have about 300 bottles at our house that we keep and, have access to and collect and can open up when we want to. And I'll say this about wine. Price doesn't matter necessarily. You can have a really expensive bottle of wine and drink it and just think it's not very good. And you can have a $20 bottle of wine or a $15 bottle of wine and think it's just absolutely fantastic. And vice versa as well. You can have some inexpensive wines that aren't good. And obviously there's some expensive wines that are really, really good. But my point would be is that the dollars don't dictate how good that wine is or isn't going to be. Agree?
No. Oh, absolutely. You drink what you like, no matter the price, and you eat what you like. Don't worry about pairings. Don't worry about who says what goes with what. That's just a suggestion. You drink what you like and you eat what you like, and you don't worry about the price. If it's a $20 bottle of wine and you love it, great. Stick to it. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I'm not sophisticated enough to know that food I'm eating with that wine makes it better. I've had people pair things for me with food, and I'll drink it and eat it and go, okay, well, I don't see the enhancement. But that doesn't mean it doesn't happen for other people. It may mean that I just have a crappy palate, and that's very possible. But I know I do like wine a whole bunch, so I'll continue to drink it. This is, like I said, I let it out of the bag, Persistence from Reynolds Family Winery. And again, Steve is one of our favorites. I've had the pleasure of meeting Steve. Well, we got to meet him. Me and my wife went in February of this year. We went out to Napa for our first trip and didn't have an expectation of seeing him when we went to his winery, but fortunately he was there and came and visited with us a little bit. But Chris was nice enough to, when he's had wine dinners in the past, invite us to go with him and got to meet him a couple times. And something about him is he's a small shop. Like I said, it's a boutique winery. How many cases a year, Chris? Maybe. Less than 7,000?
10,000 maybe.
Yeah, under 10,000 cases a year, I would bet he puts out. But the guy takes pride in what he does. He's a former dentist that decided to stop practicing and, had a love for wine. And was he from that area? I don't think he was. I think he decided to move to Napa, didn't he?
I think he moved to Napa.
Yeah, and decided that he was going to start trying to make wine. So, that's kind of a crazy thought that you're a successful practicing dentist and you go, you know what, I like wine so much, I'm going to stop doing what is a successful practice and go make wine for people.
And become a farmer.
One
of the things about Napa is a lot of the ones that have been there for a long time, they just consider themselves farmers who happen to make good wine.
Yeah. And, man, he takes a lot of pride in what he does. When you visit with him, when you see him, when you do a wine dinner with him, you can definitely tell that there's a lot of love and a lot of hard work and a lot of pride that goes into what he puts in these bottles.
And passion. And one of the things you'll see if you ever are fortunate enough to go to a wine dinner that he puts on, he starts every wine dinner with a shot of tequila to pay homage to everybody who helps make his wine and work the fields and grow the grapes.
And a little plug for him here now. Now he makes his own.
He makes his own tequila, and unfortunately he cannot ship it to Texas, which we're still a little bitter about.
Yeah, we are. We're not going to say that, though, that we're bitter about that, but we're bitter about that.
So we're gonna start with the 2015 Persistence.
2015.
Yes.
All right. So again, just to remind everybody, we got the same Persistence, but one's a 2015, one's a 2009.
Very fruit forward, which a lot of the newer, if it's a newer vintage of a Napa wine, you're gonna learn that it's a lot more fruit forward than say an older one.
Yeah, I definitely big and bold. I mean, the color is, just a dark ruby color. It's the blend on this, Chris.
The Persistence is a rare red blend, which is Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, Cab Franc, Syrah, and Petit Verdot.
Which, I love the blend. I love that it's kind of unique that it's taken out that what would be the Malbec to make that Bordeaux, the 5 grapes of the Bordeaux, and they
plug in a Syrah.
Yeah, they swap it for a Syrah, which is interesting, but it is good. It drinks very well.
He has a line of wines that are called the naughty wines, no pun intended, but he's got their Syrah and Petit Syrah blends. So you've got the naughty, the inky, the racy, and the sticky. Those are the 4 wines, and those, to my understanding, you can only get at the winery now.
Yeah, I think that's right, but I think sticky he stopped making altogether, didn't he?
He did.
Yeah,
he did. Sticky is a dessert wine, hence the name.
And what makes a wine a rare red blend? You said this is a rare red blend.
Honestly, I think it's the fact that you're blending so many grapes, but you're throwing in a grape that doesn't necessarily.
Yeah, that's exactly what I saw.
The Syrah that's in there.
So that's kind of unique blend of grapes. Yeah, it's.
But it is. The 2015 is very fruit forward.
And I would say almost on this wine that the Syrah almost stands out more to me than the Cab, even though this is probably Cab heavy.
Yeah, they're Cab. The Persistence are always Cab heavy. That's the number one.
Okay, that's the 15. I like it on the nose, palate, finish is good.
Now let's go back 7 years. Palate is definitely extremely different. Earthy, not fruit forward at all.
Yeah, even on the nose, you can tell a big difference that it's more earthy on the nose.
Very different wine. It's almost like this bottle got on an airplane and went to France.
Yeah, it is. It's me being in the old world the last year and a half, this reminds me of an old world wine, which I like.
It's good. It's good. It just goes to show you find a good wine from Napa, you hang around, hold on to it for 10 years, and it's going to be a completely different wine than when you bought it.
And, for me, what jumps out right away is just the tannins. The tannins in that 15, you can feel them in your mouth. And this 2009, they're very subtle. I mean, it drinks really smooth on the palate.
Oh, the legs are a lot more dense on the glass.
So, yeah, these are both fantastic wines. Same wine, different vintages, and you can really see the difference of letting a bottle lay down for an extra, 7 years, what that does to it.
Wow.
Boy.
This is good.
So Reynolds Family, again, one of our favorites. You can get, I know you can get Persistence. I know you can get their Cabernet. Mm-hmm. What else can you get, Chris, from them locally?
They rarely, but if you find the right place, they have a Stag's Leap Cab that you can get.
Okay.
Potentially the Merlot.
But I have seen the Merlot.
But they've got some other wines. They've got the Quote, which you cannot get anywhere else. They've got Steadfast, which if you're lucky enough to be able to get one, is a phenomenal bottle of wine.
Due Diligence.
They've got a 707, which is a Cab Franc blend. I'm trying to think. And then the Naughty Lines, which I think you have to be a wine club member to get.
But those are great wines. This particular wine that we're drinking is $50, $60 on average, depending on where you're going to get it. But when Chris talks about that Naughty Line, it's a great entry-level wine into the Reynolds family.
$25, $28?
Yeah, across the board. I don't think any of them are any more than that. Maybe 30 for one of them or two of them, but no more than that. And if you like a Syrah and a Petit Syrah, which I do, those are great wines to drink. And again, to introduce you to Reynolds family and just kind of get a sample of what he does and how his wines taste, it's a great place to start.
Or it's a great Tuesday wine when you're just having a burger.
Yeah, that too. The other thing you can do is become friends with me and Chris, and if we like you, we'll open up some bottles and share them with you. That's possible. So what else do we want to talk about with Steve? Anything else?
I think we've covered it. Steve's a phenomenal guy. I'm just waiting to try his tequila too.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll tell you, as we talk about wines on Food, Wine, and Whiskey in Your Own Backyard, we'll probably, when we talk about New World wines and Napa particular, we'll try to focus more on boutique wineries to try to give you guys information about that you won't be able to go out to Total Wine or your Specs or any of your wine stores. H-E-B has a great selection, but we're going to try to give you wines that you just can't find on a regular basis, just to hopefully entice you a little bit to go out and try something different, look for it, maybe get on their website and order it and try something new.
To expose you to the non-mass producers of wine.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I've found, and Chris, you tell me if I'm wrong here, but to me, and I think it gets back to these guys being farmers and their hands in the dirt and working their fields, the wine for me is better, and I learned this, I'll get to that in a minute, but the wine is better from a small producer. I mean, guys who don't produce, more than 30, 40,000 cases a year. To me, the wine is just a lot better. Now, the reason I've read and heard about that is big producers, they don't want to let their wine mature and they put in a lot of different chemicals and things to get the process to kind of speed up a little bit.
They're also buying their grapes from all over, so you're getting a varietal of blending, whereas these small producers with predominantly estate wines, which are only grown there, they're a concentrated wine. You're going to get the soil, the earth of whatever that little district is in Napa. So they're not buying their grapes from somewhere else and blending it in.
Yeah. But when you do, blending's not bad, though, necessarily.
Blending is not bad as long as you know where the grapes are coming from. If you are the one responsible for, I guess, farming those grapes, or the ones that are farming those grapes, as opposed to buying them from somewhere maybe outside of Napa, then it's different.
Correct. Because there's a lot of growers, and that's a big thing in Napa, right? Not just winemakers. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of people in Napa that are just farmers. They just grow grapes and they sell it to producers. But some of those guys are very well known, and they know that, one, they might have old vines that, year after year have that reputation of producing really good fruit. And is that where we get sometimes these higher end bottles of wine? They get kind of expensive.
It's a combination of not necessarily older vines, but vines done in a particular climate, a particular soil. Whereas you can go to Sonoma and you get a Cabernet Sauvignon from Sonoma that could be completely different based on the climate, because it's a cooler climate in Sonoma than it is in Napa, where you predominantly get the Russian River Valley Chardonnay, Syrah, Pinot Noirs. That's going to be predominant over there. Whereas Napa, you're going to get predominantly Cabernet Sauvignon. You're going to get Merlots. They're starting to get into the Cabernet Franc business, and some are doing it really well, considering it's always predominantly been a blending grape. There's some doing some phenomenal Cab Francs out of Napa.
Cab Francs, and the other one I've enjoyed drinking is just a Petit Verdot, which has been really good. And one producer that jumps out to me that I really like what they've done with those two varietals is
Robinson family.
Well, Robinson and another friend of ours, Glenn Hugo.
Glenn Hugo.
Gerard has, my wife will tell you, the three, what Chris called blending grapes, typically, but are now starting to stand on their own more in Napa. The Malbec, the Petit Verdot, and the Cab Franc from Gerard is fantastic. And Gerard is a brand that, you can find it here, but typically you find their Artistry Cab, the regular Cab, a Petit Syrah. But finding the Malbec and the Petit Verdot and the Cab Franc, that's where you have to start to become members of their wine clubs to be able to get access to some of the really good stuff. Unless you live in Napa, then you can just go up the street and buy it.
He also makes a red wine called a mixed black, which is phenomenal.
Yeah. Tell them what that is. What when you say mixed black, what does that mean?
It's a Bordeaux. It's basically a varietal of all the Bordeaux blends.
Yeah, they put vines out in the field, and they don't know what's growing where. It's just a mix of all those grapes, and they just harvest them all together, make a wine out of it, put it in a bottle, and off it goes. And it's really it's different, but it's different in a good way. It's really, really good.
It's phenomenal. I mean, the first time I went down there and actually visited with him, I had that at his house, and I fell in love with it. And I called him the next week and said, I need you to send me a case of it. And he did.
Yeah, outstanding stuff. And Glenn and his wife do a really good job. They have their, are they still making wine?
They have their own private label called Hugo Family Cellars, which you can only get from them. You have to actually go on their website and get it from them. And then he's the head winemaker for Gerard and D.R. Cohn, too, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's right. Mm-hmm. That's right. So, yeah, there's really good. And I think most people in our community, when you start talking about wine, most of them drink Napa wine. Would you think that's probably true?
Predominantly, yes.
Yeah. I think more and more what I'm seeing, just based on what I'm seeing at grocery stores, in their wine departments, at wine stores, I'm starting to see a bigger selection of old world wines, predominantly Italy and France. And I actually asked Caroline at H-E-B the other day, why are you getting so much of this old world? I mean, I think it's awesome, but what's the deal? And she said, we're just getting a lot more requests for it. So it's interesting to me that we're starting to see people go from Napa and starting to explore other wine regions. And to me, I got into Napa. I stayed in Napa for about, first 5 or 6 years that I was drinking wine. The last 2 years, I've really kind of ventured off and wanted to go explore wine from other places. In Italy and France, and Greece has some fantastic wines. Croatia, Spain has some fantastic wines. That's kind of your old world. And then even new world with Chile and Argentina, and Australia has some good wines. Anything else you can?
South Australia.
Yeah.
Is making some great wines.
Penfold is huge over there. They make a really good Sauvignon Blanc that's supposed to be a, a little bit more, I guess they say crisp and kind of got that grassy flavor. It's supposed to be fresh and citrus. And yeah, so Australia, where else? I know New Zealand's got some wines coming out. Canada has been making wine. So that would be all kind of new world wines.
Then you've got, even go north to Oregon and Washington, and there's some phenomenal wines coming out of Oregon and Washington.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I've been hesitant. I fell in love with Burgundy, drinking their Pinots over there. And I prior to that, I tried some California Pinots, and I didn't like them as much. And Caroline told me to try a particular Pinot from Oregon. She said that's more in the style of Burgundy, Old World. And I had that actually a couple nights ago. It was a Four Graces Pinot. That was just fantastic, and it really reminded me of that style of a Burgundy from France. Yeah. And for $20 a bottle, I mean, you can't beat it. It drank fantastic.
Even Paso Robles down south of San Francisco and north of L.A. is making a big push.
Yeah, and they do a lot of Pinot down there, right?
Mm-hmm. They do Pinot, they do Cabs. There's a lot of good wines coming out of there because it's not as close to the coast.
All right. Well, anything else you want to talk about before we say goodbye to everybody?
I think we've bothered them enough today.
All right. Well, we hope you guys enjoyed listening to our rambling about wine and what we like about it, the producer of Reynolds Family, how fantastic we think he is, Gerard and Glenn Hugo and what they've done. Like we said, go out and try these bottles. I think you won't be disappointed. We look forward to having you guys listen to us on the next show, and thanks so much. We'll talk to you soon.
Just open a great bottle.
There you go.